Oh, you're killing me. You're killing me. So does anybody have any specific questions about any of this that's going on with this project?
We have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
When is it going to happen? When is something going to be done so we have to quit listening to this sewer?
Procedurally,
Bad-mouthing people, this one bad-mouthing that one that's running for office, this one, you know.
well,
I'm on
what's
the election board and I don't believe in this. This is,
well to answer I'll answer your question in two parts. The first part is in terms of where we're at procedurally, and they can tell you this. The township has appealed the ruling of the DEP to enforce it. So that is, there will be a proceeding scheduled in front of the Environmental Hearing Board at some point in the future. So I'm assuming that everything has been stayed pending that appeal, which means everything's on hold until the appeal gets figured out. I don't know, have you heard of anything in terms of when that's going to be? I don't know what the time frame for that is. It's
not on the fast track.
It's on, yeah, I mean, we're talking months, not weeks, in terms of a final decision on the township's appeal. Now, you know, if something were to be worked out in the interim, there's always the possibility the township could pull their appeal back. You know, if an agreement was reached between the authority and the township, I'm sure that's always possible.
That's what we're going to work towards.
All right. But you had touched on something else that I want to talk about for a second. Talk about the politics. And I'm going to talk about this once and just for a minute, because I think it's very unfair of what's going on here. I'm here at 8:46 on a Thursday night because it's my job to be here, and because I care about the people of Hanover Township, whether you want to believe that or not. That's why I'm standing here. The thing that has really disturbed me about what's gone on in the past couple of weeks is that I don't think at any point during these proceedings, the meetings with the DEP, the public meeting that we had down at the fire hall that was open to anybody, any of the involvement we've had in this, I think I've done my level best to make this as non-political as possible from my personal point of view. Yeah, I'm running for re-election this year. No surprise. We're up every 2 years, the way the system works. I would rather not be up for re-election, but that's the way it is. But I think I've done my level best to keep the politics out of this. And that's one of the things that really disturbed me about what I'm starting to see here. Because the things I've said, maybe I've said some things that were critical, some things that people didn't like, and that's fine. You cannot like them. That's the way democracy works. We can reasonably disagree on issues. It's the way the system's set up, that's the way it's supposed to be. However, when we have a situation where members of the municipal authority sort of kind of operating as members of the authority, but sort of kind of operating as private citizens, start staging basically political rallies and political meetings to try to bring the politics into this, I think that's offensive. You know, I was accused of pandering for votes, which I thought was funny. Because if I was pandering for votes, and everybody agreed with the authority like they seem to think that they do, then why wouldn't I agree with them? If I was pandering, I'd be going where the easy votes are. But that's not what this is about. And I'm telling everybody here right now, if this garbage that's going on and this back and forth or whatever, if it turns everybody off so bad that I don't get a single vote in Hanover Township in November, but we do the right thing and get the sewer project done the right way so it doesn't adversely affect all of you, then I'm fine with that. I don't care if I get a single vote out of this township. I honestly don't. And I'll say this, you know, I wasn't able to be there Monday night to address what was going on or defend myself politically, because that was a political attack. That wasn't policy, that was political. And to anybody here that's arranged any of that or has the ear of my opponent or anything that's going on, you can pass along to him that anytime Mr. DeLuca feels the need to get together and debate infrastructure in Hanover Township, he knows where to find me. I'll have the conversation any day of the week. I've been doing this for 3.5 years now. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's how to do a good sewer project and how to do a bad sewer project. And the reason that I have the backs of this board is because what is going on right now is a bad sewage project. Now I'm going to address a few specific lies that have been told, and they are lies. There are times when you could have a legitimate debate and people could agree to disagree, and there are times when you have to say, that's just flat out wrong. And I'm going to address a couple of them. First and foremost is the issue of taxes going up. That's, we're going to pull that one right out of the political scare tactic book. Your taxes are going to go up. I'm not entirely sure how. I really don't know. But there's no evidence that would suggest that if this project gets put on hold to be done the right way, that anybody's taxes are going to go up. If anything, it's going to be the opposite. Because if they go ahead and do this the way they want to do it, and they ask these guys to keep borrowing taxpayer money over and over and over again to cover their overruns, who's going to pay for it? You are. If the township borrows the money, you're going to be the ones paying it back through a bond issue. The best analogy that I can give is if you want to build a house, and you decide you want to build a house for yourself, but instead of building it out of lumber, you decide to build it out of graham crackers. And you draw up the best designed house ever, but you're going to build it out of graham crackers. And you go to the bank and you say, you know what, I have some of the money, but I need you to lend me the rest of the money so I can build my graham cracker house. And the bank says, forget it. We're not going to lend you the money because this isn't going to work. The house is going to crumble, and we're going to be stuck holding the bag. And that's where we're at right now. The authority has asked this Board of Supervisors to underwrite millions of dollars in debt for a project with fundamental problems. And it's not like we haven't said in the past we have issues we want to address, and there's been all this talk about we haven't made proposals, we haven't talked to the DEP. That's rubbish. That's just ridiculous. I sat in this very room at a municipal authority meeting in, I believe, December, whenever the alternative plans were presented by the municipal authority's engineer. And ironically enough, their preferred plan was the one that was the most economical. And I asked the engineer, there was I believe it was $1.9 million to expand the Burgettstown plan. I said, how'd you come up with that number? Well, we estimated. Do you have any proof that Burgettstown would need to be expanded? No. So he just admitted that he made up the number, he plugged it in to make their numbers look better. That's insanity. Now, one thing that by sitting through this meeting for the last hour, 52 minutes, that I think everybody can agree with is, these guys are fiscally responsible. They're sitting there talking about $7 a month on a healthcare plan. They're talking about $50 for this. These guys watch their pennies closely. They're being asked to underwrite millions of dollars in debt. And here's the kicker. Think about this. So at first the project was going to be on budget. And then all of a sudden, and by the way, if they'd come in on budget with the grant money they received, we wouldn't even be having this debate. Because they could have gone ahead and done it. But that wasn't enough. Now we need a couple $1 million more, so we're going to go to these guys and ask them to underwrite it for us. So what happens whenever we break ground and we realize that there are 35 Phantom EDUs somewhere that need to be paid for? Or we can't negotiate with First Niagara Pavilion and they decide to pull up out of town and leave us 100 taps short. Well, we're already digging now. We've already started. So what are we going to do? We're going to go back to the bank. And now these guys are down the rabbit hole. We've borrowed a couple million. Well, now we need another 3 or 4 more. Can't have a half-finished project. So it is a long-term commitment that these guys are being asked to make. And I told them from the beginning, I support their decisions. This isn't my decision to make. But somehow this has all become about me, which is fine. Getting back to the politics. I'm a big boy, I can handle it. These guys made a decision, and it was a heart-wrenching, very difficult decision they made. And they made it, and I told them I'd have their back then, and I have their back now, and I'm going to continue to have their back. Because that's what I said I was going to do. So, let's get off all this talk about what taxes are going to be raised.